Hey guys, so today I'm going to be reviewing The Hobbit by JRR Tolkien for you. Here is a copy that I have published by Houghton Mifflin Company, and I really like this cover because it has little picture summary things of pieces of their little adventure, which is pretty cool. But the copy that I actually ended up reading is this one. I bought this at Target not too long ago for about $11, and I ended up buying this one even though I already had the other one because it matches the Lord of the Rings books that I also bought beforehand. And I absolutely love these covers. I think they are just stunning. I love how the black background is mostly matte, but then there's a little bit of gloss to show the clouds, if you can see that. The gold isn't a flat color either. It's a little bit satin, a little bit shiny, and I love how the red is in like stark contrast to the rest of the cover. I just think it's really, really pretty. And at the bottom it says this is a 75th anniversary edition, so look for that. And this is published by HarperCollins. I had never read it until now, which I kind of wish I would have read it when I was younger. Just because I think it's a story that would probably benefit more from a slower reader and someone with a really still a very imaginative mind. You can just picture it so perfectly in your mind when you're a kid. So as you guys probably know, this is the prequel to The Lord of the Rings. Having seen the Lord of the Rings movies before reading this book, there are two things that kind of surprised me that were contrary to what I expected. One of them was the place where Bilbo is from is not referred to as the Shire. It's actually called Hobbiton, and he also refers to it as Bag End and Underhill, which you guys might remember. Underhill is the alias that Frodo uses at the Prancing Pony in the very first movie. And another thing that kind of surprised me was the whole world was not referred to as Middle Earth. So basically this story is about a group of dwarves who are planning to go to the land of their forefathers that had been taken over by a dragon called Smaug many years ago, and now are going back to reclaim it. And Gandalf the wizard is helping, though he doesn't stay for the entire adventure. He has other adventures that he has his hand in as well, so he's not always there. And Gandalf is also in charge of finding a burglar for the companions. So that's where the book begins. Gandalf is wandering through the Hobbit land and comes across Bilbo Baggins, who is smoking in his front yard. I do wish Tolkien elaborated a little bit more on the history of hobbits and maybe other families of hobbits, and or at least introduced us to one other hobbit in the entire book. But basically all we get is a little bit of backstory about Bilbo's lineage and his home. Bilbo doesn't necessarily think he is the adventure type. The people, or the little hobbits in his neighborhood, are not adventurers and in fact frown upon such things. So he, against his better judgment, he invites Gandalf to tea the next day, and Gandalf actually makes a hidden mark on Bilbo's door. And the next day, instead of just Gandalf, 13 dwarves also come to the house. The dwarves automatically assume that Bilbo has already agreed to become the burglar for their mission. So there are 13 dwarves in total, the leader of which is called Thorin Oakenshield, and the rest of them have names that kind of rhyme a little bit. I had a little bit of trouble telling the difference between them. It's not really important to. There's just, every once in a while, he will mention, he the narrator, sorry, that certain dwarves are better at certain things, or they have certain physical features, like Bombor is the fat one, and he often is the last to be able to do things, or the last one across the path, or the last one up the mountain, things like that. But all of the 13 dwarves are Kili, Fili, Dwalin, Balin or Balin? I think Balin, but since all the rest of them rhyme, I just am more inclined to say Balin. Balin. Dory, Nori, Ori, Owen, Glowin, Befor or Byfor, Beaufort, and Bomber. And again, Thorin Oakenshield. And Gandalf, and that rounds out the entire companionship of this adventure. Bilbo isn't really sure that he wants to go. He keeps kind of changing his mind. He's on the fence, and eventually his Tookish side decides to go ahead and go on the adventure. And he waits so far to the last minute that Gandalf has to kind of be like, oh, aren't you going? And Bilbo's like, yeah, I'll go ahead and go. And he forgets his walking stick and his hood and like his pocket kerchiefs that he is very concerned about at first. Bilbo just kind of seems to me like an old man, one of those old proper men who have their little pocket watch and stuff, you know, they're just very proper and peculiar little bits. One other thing that's a little bit strange about this book that I just thought was kind of peculiar is the way that adventures are referred to at the beginning of the book. I mean, the narrator basically tells us that Bilbo isn't the sort, really, to go on adventures, and his neighbors look down upon adventures, and people on the other side of town always are having adventures. And it kind of makes you wonder what they mean by adventure. I mean, it can't be that the people on the other side of town are all going on quests just like this. Is it just hobbits leaving the hobbit town that they think is just so outlandish, or making friends with species of things that aren't hobbits, like the elves or the dwarves or the wizards or men? I'm not really sure. In the beginning of the book, there is a map, and this is Thorin Oakenshield's father's map of where the mountains lie and everything. This lonely mountain is the destination of their adventure, where they're going to end up. And it's kind of cool referring back to this map as the adventure goes on. This is near the end. This whole map is near the end of the adventure. They have a lot of adventures that the map doesn't cover. This is all that Thorin actually has to work off of. But literally in the story, they refer to this hand that's pointing to their destination. And this little map has a lot of information that actually shows up in the story. I really appreciate that JRR Tolkien is a scholar of human history, and I did notice a few ways that his research and his knowledge of early humanity was snuck into this tale. The first thing that I noticed is the map at the beginning. The east is actually at the top, where north is actually on the west, where west is today, and that is how actually all early maps of humanity were laid out. Another way is how much singing there is in this book. I mean, everybody sings. The Hobbit sings, the dwarves sing, the elves sing, I think the goblins sing, the men sing. Everybody sings in this book. And humans have always been very musical as well. Some of our oldest stories started out as songs, and I think that's how they transcended time and were so memorable to people that they actually were carried through the ages until the invention of writing. A lot of people made their livings, I guess, as bards back then, just going around and singing tales of heroics. And that's a theme that's kind of runs through The Hobbit as well. I really appreciated the narrator in the story, since the person telling us this story already knows the outcome. It kind of adds a lot to the style and the tone of the story, and I thought that made it a lot more fun and a lot more interesting, because sometimes while we mainly followed our companions, Bilbo and the dwarves, sometimes it would branch off and tell the backstory of some other characters that we kind of need to know to fully appreciate the entire situation. And I thought that was a clever thing to do as an author, to have it narrated by somebody who knows the story already. This book was really quick to read. I read it all this week, and even though I have like 4 or 5 other books that I'm reading, this one really, like, I was always constantly reaching for this one. It's really fun. It's a really fun book. It's really fun adventure, and I think that anybody would love this book. What are you waiting for? I think I've recorded enough.